think that we can all assume that because Esmeralda was in contact with Celeste after she was missing, she likely knew where she was, who she was staying with, and who she was talking to / dating. I do want to point out the fact that at that specific time, Esmeralda was 17 years old. She too was a child. It's not her responsibility to parent her little cousin. Yeah, if she knew something, it would have been nice if she had spoken up, but in this specific situation, the parents of Celeste, the adults in her life, didn't seem to care, weren't seeming to do anything. So why would we expect the children to speak up and do something if the adults in their lives aren't?
The investigator working on David's case stumbled upon some seriously bizarre stuff inside the house David was renting. Farm tools, bottles of pain meds, and more. And get this, it wasn't just David staying there. On top of everything, turns out Celeste's cousin Esmeralda had a very close friendship with him. Yeah, that Esmeralda, let's talk about it. I honestly didn't expect to be covering David again this soon, but what the investigator revealed changes everything.
Delete this. Oh, look it. Answer that one. That's so mean if you don't answer.
He described finding strange, out-of-place items in that Hollywood Hills home. Stuff that looked more suited for a farm than a fancy neighborhood house. That's wild. Esmeralda's name even popped up again because she's been acting shady lately, dropping nasty messages like she's trying to cover something. But let's focus on what Steve, the investigator, actually said. He mentioned discovering several items that serve no clear domestic purpose. According to him,
I didn't want to go and change the narrative and say something completely different. You gotta figure whatever you got going on. Figure that out. I've been so selfish and I can't stop thinking about you and what I did and how it's affecting like everything. Like, I just wanted to say I'm sorry.
You don't even go to your house. Hey, bro. You talk to I'm not Mexican. I'm all the door and you tripping.
Oh my God.
Not because you tripping.
There were multiple things that didn't belong together in a regular home. He said you'd never need these unless you were out working on a farm. That's weird, right? What would David be doing with tools like that in his rental? Maybe it's not just random clutter. Maybe those items had a darker use, something to hide evidence. I'm not saying anything for sure, but imagine if they were things like shovels, strong chemicals, or even equipment that could break something down.
Little Blue Rider Hood, you heard? We outside, I'm on the scooter. You ain't see, oh. We outside, hold on. We out.
That thought alone gives chills. Steve said he wasn't sure what those items meant for the overall story, but here's the part that makes no sense. They didn't even collect them. They just took photos. Who does that in a case this serious? If investigators are finding strange farm tools in a Hollywood home linked to a missing person, you'd think they'd grab everything as evidence. This case has been dragging on for too long, and it really makes you wonder, why hasn't David been arrested yet? Steve, the investigator, actually said the items he found could be used to get rid of a person. That's chilling. He also discovered solid proof that multiple people, both men and women, were living in that house.
I want to go back to streaming so bad. Don't get me wrong. Like, I actually love streaming and I hopefully will come back to like some platforms soon. But the streaming community is so severely toxic right now. And I need people to understand that like there's so much stuff that goes behind the scenes that you guys just do not see. But I digress. You guys will probably find out some of the people I'm talking about very soon, because when you're a bad person, eventually everyone finds out naturally. That's the thing about bad people. They expose themselves. I don't need to do anything. Karma's.
Guest rooms had personal stuff like filled bedside tables, half-used toiletries, and cluttered bathroom cabinets. It was obvious this wasn't just David's space. It felt more like a crash pad for a group of his friends. But here's the part that doesn't add up. None of those things prove that Celeste was ever there. Not a single trace of her. So what were all these people doing in David's house? And how many of them actually knew about Celeste? The crazy part is, some of David's own friends have spoken out saying they were told Celeste was a 19-year-old USC student. That's a whole made-up story right there. They even think she used fake IDs to keep up the lie. And maybe, just maybe, David helped her get them. One witness said at a party in July 2024, a bunch of people met Celeste and had no clue she was only 14, maybe even 13 at the time. That's wild. Imagine being around someone pretending to be in college when she was barely in her teens. Then there's the online chatter. One comment said, I think his manager killed her. Now, I don't personally buy that theory, but it does make you wonder if the manager knows more than he's admitting. Another person said, I think this kid is innocent. Really? Let's do a pulse check. How many people actually think David could be innocent here? Be honest. Sure, we don't have every detail yet, but it's hard to shake the feeling that he's involved somehow. Still, others argue maybe he hasn't been arrested because there's just not enough evidence, or maybe he really didn't do it. There's actually a Build-A-Bear location inside Six Flags, and that detail changes everything. Common sense says Celeste was there that day, and she probably brought Esmeralda along. But here's where things get disturbing. Six Flags has a strict rule that anyone under 15 has to be with a chaperone who's at least 21. So, who was that adult? Was it David or someone else entirely? And if Celeste was really out in public like that, how open was her relationship with David to her own family? None of this makes sense. If Celeste was supposedly missing, then why didn't law enforcement get an immediate call saying, hey, she's safe, she's at Six Flags? Instead, we've got a timeline where she's seen having fun surrounded by people while investigators are out there searching for her. It's heartbreaking and confusing. Let's remember something crucial. Celeste was only 13 years old at the time. She'd barely been a teenager for half a year. Just think about that for a second. How could anyone in her circle, especially her cousin Esmeralda, who's around David's age, think it was okay to let her hang around him like that? It's shocking and deeply upsetting. Now, back to what was found in that house. Investigators uncovered prescription bottles, painkillers, and other meds, and that's where a new theory started spreading online. Some people are saying maybe Celeste had an accidental overdose and someone tried to cover it up. But right now, that idea hasn't been proven. Still, the fact that there were pain meds scattered around raises a lot of questions. I mean, what 19 or 20-year-old needs multiple bottles of pain medication like that? Something's not adding up here. Now, let's shift to Celeste's family for a second. This part's delicate, but important. There are definitely family members who were aware of her relationship with David and even seemed close to both of them. According to Steve, the investigator, Celeste was officially reported missing on April 5th, 2024. That date's key because what he found next connects directly to her cousin, Esmeralda. Steve said that while going through David's place, he discovered a certificate with the name Esmeralda on it. And if that name sounds familiar, it should. She's Celeste's cousin, the same one we talked about in the last video. The document came from Build-A-Bear and was dated April 21st, 2024. Now think about that for a second. Celeste was reported missing on April 5th, and this certificate linked to her cousin shows up in David's home 16 days later. What was Esmeralda doing there? Now, back to this mess with David, because what I'm taking away from all this is hard to swallow. It looks like David groomed a 13-year-old girl, and the worst part, her own family might have allowed it. They didn't just look the other way, they actually helped. If Esmeralda really helped Celeste get into Six Flags when she was underage, that means they consented to it happening. That's wild. But here's where the internet starts fighting back. Some people are calling out the investigator, Steve, saying his theory doesn't hold up. They claim Esmeralda might not have been at Six Flags at all, but at another amusement park, Knott's Berry Farm. The drama just keeps building. People online started comparing pictures, pointing out a fountain behind Esmeralda in one of her photos. And yeah, it does look a lot like the one at Knott's Berry Farm. I've never been there myself, but comment below if you have. Does that fountain look familiar or what? Now, because of that, people are calling Steve out, saying, hey man, I think you got it wrong. They argue that Esmeralda might have been at Knott's Berry Farm, not Six Flags, which also happens to have its own Build-A-Bear shop. But then Steve clapped back, basically saying, fine, show me the roller coaster David was on then. And that's a good point. Knott's doesn't have the kind of extreme coasters Six Flags is famous for. These allegations are already wild, but without solid receipts to back them up, everything's just speculation. Now, here's the thing about Build-A-Bear that could actually prove something. Every Build-A-Bear certificate includes a tiny member ID number printed on it. And if anyone out there works at Build-A-Bear or has access to their system, that ID could reveal exactly where that bear was made. Imagine how much that could clear up. So, anyone out there willing to check? Crickets. Yeah, I thought so. But seriously, if someone's got access and wants to help, email me. I'll keep it fully anonymous, no questions asked. That little detail could finally tell us whether the bear came from Knott's Berry Farm or Six Flags, because that right there could flip this whole theory on its head. But even if we figure that out, why was that certificate found inside David's house at all? That's the real question. Maybe Esmeralda made the bear herself, gifted it to Celeste, and then somehow it ended up in David's possession. But Steve insists there's zero proof Celeste was ever at David's house, which makes this whole situation even sketchier. Something just doesn't line up here. And speaking of amusement parks, this next part is wild. Someone on Reddit posted about a month ago claiming they found Celeste's old Twitter account, and what they discovered on it had people losing their minds. They found a video that shows David hanging out at what looks like an amusement park. And he wasn't alone. It seems like Celeste's brother was there too. Users started analyzing every frame, trying to figure out exactly where it was filmed. Based on the scenery, many people believe it's Knott's Berry Farm, the same park that keeps coming up over and over in this story. I actually saw the post myself. It included screenshots from what looks like Celeste's old Twitter page. In the video, you can clearly see David in the frame with Celeste's brother standing nearby. And when you compare it with Google Maps, the background looks identical to Knott's Berry Farm. The same trees, the same layout, everything matches. It's honestly strange, almost disturbing, to see how relaxed Celeste's brother, cousin, and everyone else seem to be around David. Watching those old clips feels eerie now. They all look so comfortable with him, like he was some trusted family friend, and that's heartbreaking because clearly they had no idea what kind of man they were really dealing with. Still, it's hard not to think they should have been way more careful. Now, about Esmeralda, yeah, I mentioned her in my last video, which is probably why she's not exactly my biggest fan right now. But Esmeralda, if you're watching this, my door's open. You're welcome to come on the channel anytime and tell your side of the story. No filters, no edits, just the truth. What makes this whole thing even more suspicious is that Celeste was reportedly at Esmeralda's high school graduation in May 2024, after she had already been reported missing. Let that sink in. How does someone show up at a public event like that while still being listed as a missing person? If the family saw her there, why didn't anyone pick up the phone and tell the police she was safe? That's not just an oversight. That's bizarre. Steve, the investigator, actually tried to reach out to Esmeralda directly with a few pointed questions. He asked her, "Did you attend an event with David and Celeste on April 21st, 2024? The same day of that Six Flags situation, the day that Build-A-Bear certificate with her name popped up in David's house." He even followed up with, "Why was Celeste at your graduation in May if she was still listed as a runaway and wasn't in school?" That's a fair question. And honestly, Esmeralda could clear all of this up so easily if she just spoke openly. She could say, "Yeah, I didn't know what was really happening and I'm sorry." Boom, done. Nobody's calling her the criminal here. We all know who the real monster in this story is. There's a lot more coming out online about this case. That's exactly why I had to drop another update video. The internet has been busy digging, and what people are finding is just wild. One of the craziest things so far? Someone actually did a voice analysis of one of David's songs called "I Never Needed You." Yeah, this just got even weirder. We're gonna play a short part of it soon, but here's what you need to know. This clip features a few different voices. In it, you can hear Celeste's voice from an old live stream where she was talking to David about some disturbing stuff, and then they compare it to David's vocals in his music. They even mixed in that old Ring camera clip where Celeste was yelling at her neighbor, just to match tone and voice patterns. The goal? To see if David used her actual voice in his track? Now, I don't know about you guys, but that's chilling to even think about. The way the voice in the song sounds, it's almost identical to the audio we've heard before. It's like the same person talking, just layered under the beat. The girl's voice in the clip says, "You're the one calling my phone. Your number isn't blocked. You keep buying phones and calling me and texting me like, please go away if you have no interest in me. If you don't know me, then why are you calling me? Why are you calling and saying you're sorry this, and then you want to go and change the narrative and say something completely different? You got to figure out whatever you've got going on, figure that out. If that really is Celeste, it sounds heartbreakingly mature. She's clearly setting boundaries, telling this grown man to leave her alone. And what makes it creepier? Everyone knows David owned tons of phones, like 10 or more. Who even needs that many? It screams sketchy behavior, but wait, there's another twist. Let's talk about Asia for a second. Remember her? Asia's one of David's friends, kind of like that guy Neo, who we already talked about before. Both of them seemed to know about Celeste and what was going on, but now Asia's suddenly trying to back away, hard. She's unfollowed David on social media, deleted old posts, and just recently dropped a video that seems like a direct shade post. Ever found out one of my friends was capable of doing something like this? I'd be wrecked. I'd need therapy just to process it. Imagine realizing you were standing next to someone who turned out to be a full-blown monster. That's the kind of thing that haunts you forever. And speaking of monsters, yesterday was Halloween. And what did I see all over social media? People dressed up as David. Like, seriously? Why are folks turning him into some kind of twisted costume? That's not edgy, that's disturbing. There's nothing funny about it. Anyway, I need to know what you all think about all this. Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this story keeps getting crazier by the day. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the video, and I'll catch you in the next one.